My mom loves this sweatshirt when I wear it.
Good. I didn't change
She
anything,
does one
so
of these. She's like, "Oh, you're bad." She's funny. All right.
it's a good one. It's a good sweatshirt. You're welcome.
It
I
is a
find you all
great
the
sweatshirt.
quality. I find you quality Golden Girls
Okay.
stuff.
Never
Okay,
get rid of my bouquet of roses ever.
the shit. I sat on that for like
Ever.
2 years. 2 years. If we lived closer, they make those in like a lawn version where you can put all the roses in your front lawn.
No, shut up. They
If
do
I lived
not.
closer, I would do that. I would have done that to you overnight before your birthday,
I
so you would have
would have
woken up to
I
like
would have
just
loved that
like
so
a
much.
lawn full of roses.
That would have been fantastic.
Unfortunately, I can't drive 4.5 hours just for a birthday
Oh my
prank.
gosh, that would have been so good. Well, I love my bouquet of roses. Oh, rest in peace, Golden Girls.
I know, they were so good.
They were. Oh man. Well, we are really rolling today with our mega recording session.
I know, it's good because my uterus is really trying to kill me today.
Being a woman, I tell you, the crap we go through. All right, well, you want to
Mhm.
kick it off and let us know what you're reading and what you just finished?
So I am currently reading a book you've already read, and that is The Whalebone Theater by Joanna
Ooh.
Quinn. I
Ooh.
am really loving this. It's historical fiction, which is not usually my jam, and it's historical fiction that touches on World War II, which I'm
Mm-hmm.
so bored of, but I'm really liking this because
Yeah.
it's following these kids right now, predominantly in this section. Uh, Obviously, Christabel's going to grow up, and we're going to follow Christabel into World War II and the work that she does there. However, right now you're watching this young girl grow up with her
Mm-hmm.
half brother and half sister. Well, I guess her brother's not even really her brother. No, I guess I don't know. Anyway, it's a complicated family.
Yeah.
But you start the story in just after World War One, and Christabel's just this kind of forgotten girl that's up in the attic, and it's sad. She's a like imaginative, rambunctious girl who it seems like her father is not very into her, interested in her life, and you find out kind of why he's so distant from her as the story unfolds. And I remember this getting a lot of buzz on
Mm-hmm.
Bookstagram. I haven't seen it once on BookTube. On Bookstagram, especially around like just before and after it came out, and I've been so curious about the book. So eventually, Knopf did send me a finished copy. So thank you, Knopf. So I'm
Yay!
thoroughly enjoying this book. The writing is really lovely. I really
Mm-hmm.
find the characters very like vivid and three-dimensional, and just I absolutely love them all. It is such a good book right now. So I'm very happy about this one. I was not interested in this at all.
I
I think it,
know.
and then everybody kept talking about it. So then I'm very grateful to Knopf for sometimes asking repeatedly about a book
Mm-hmm.
so that I can circle back and be like, yeah, actually
Yes.
I do want to read this because I've heard enough things now that I'm like, I do need to read this. So
Yeah.
I'm this was a good circle back. So you were right.
Yeah.
This is very good. I'm enjoying this. And it's actually, do you have a finished copy or an ARC?
No, I just have an arc.
The finished copy is like one of those really heavy, finely made
Mm-hmm.
hardbacks. So I appreciate it.
Yeah.
It is a well made book, and I like a
Yeah.
good well made book.
Yeah. I adore Christabel.
I like all the children. I love the
Yeah.
veg. I love all of them.
Yeah.
I think the story with her mother is just so sad. The story with her dad, like just it's sad. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
sad. And her stepmom's I don't like her stepmom. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So we'll see how this goes. And I feel like Christabel's gonna have a good life. I really want Christabel to have a good life. And do not make any faces or say anything. But I'm
Ooh.
enjoying this book.
Yay. I need to pause for a minute. Hang
What did you
on.
do?
I missed a call. Hang on. Always watching. I'm watching you, Wazowski. Always watching. I'm watching. Okay.
You okay?
I'm good. Yep, I'm good. I'm
Okay.
good. All right. So, oh, he did send me that. All right. Well, I just started a few days ago. I started reading A Spell of Good Things by Ayubami Adebayo. Adebayo. She is the author that wrote Stay With Me, which was a hell of a read if you've never read that. Anyway, this comes out February 7th. Thank you, Kanaf, for this advanced final copy. This will be out by the time the show airs, but I'm only 4 chapters in, so I'm just kind of getting in somewhat of a groove. I don't have much of an opinion yet. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm excited to continue and get through this. I really, really loved her debut novel, and I can't wait to dig more into it to see what is going on. But this comes out February 7th from Knopf, A Spell of Good Things by Ayubami Adebayo.
I'm excited
Yes.
because I
Da,
am
da,
your
da,
friend.
da. That's right. Okay. Well, what's the deal today?
We
What's
we're going to talk about some books that we've both, well, a book that we've both read. We have another one of these to come.
Mhm.
And Naomi's the only one who owns this book, so Naomi will have to hold it up for us. But we're going to discuss Belle Greene by Alexandra Lapierre. And I read this first. She told me about it first, but I read it first. And I
it?
gave you a play by play
I loved it.
as I was reading it, which now I have to try to remember because I was listening to it on audio, and uh, I finally convinced her to actually pick it up sooner rather than later. She was always going to read it. Um, so now we're here to talk about it. So do you want to give a little intro to like what Belle who is Miss Belle Greene?
Belle da Costa Greene. She was the librarian for J.P. Morgan's personal library.
Mm-hmm.
Many of you probably know about this story because there was a book that came out last year. I believe it was called The Personal Librarian, which is a
Mm-hmm.
story of Belle Greene. This is a different book, obviously. But yeah, this is her story of how it all began. And it's a nice, chunky book, but the, the text, the print is big and it reads really quickly.
Yeah, I had no idea how big this. It was long in
Yes, it's
audiobook
big.
hours. It was pretty long, so I knew it was going to be a longer book.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So,
I
oh, and
really
I'm sorry. Hang on, I'm
sorry.
sorry. And this is translated. Okay, so this is Belle Greene by Alexandra Lapierre, and it's translated from the French by Tina Kover.
Oh yeah, she's good at that. I'm not good at that.
Yeah,
It's just a book and it's by a person.
we gotta
Um
shout out these translators. We gotta shout out these translators.
I know. Translation must be so hard. So, yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was, I mean, she has a very interesting life. Uh
Yeah.
a very interesting life. I think the choices her mom made were things that I don't think you could do this today, given how interconnected we all are.
Oh yeah.
Um, I mean, she really lived at a time where you could totally reinvent yourself if you
Mm-hmm.
needed to, could, had the means, et cetera, et cetera. And she does. And it's a very, what a ride her life takes.
Man.
And there's things that I just find incredibly unbelievable, and we can get into all of that. So, do you want to give a little summary about the book, or just in general about things? How do you want to kick this off?
Let's just get started. Let's just dig into it. I mean, it's about Belle da Costa Greene. Like I said, she was the librarian for the the Morgan family or whatever for their
Mm-hmm.
personal library. Let's get into it because I'm going to tell you what. Uh, I thought I knew a little bit about this story, but I one of the things I didn't realize was I didn't realize like the whole family made a decision to pass. I just thought
Yeah,
it was her.
yeah, I didn't realize that either. So basically,
So,
she comes from a family where her father was quite well known
mhm.
as like an activist, and he was what, like one of the first black men to
I'll
go to
read it.
Harvard or something like that.
I'll read it. So it says his claim to fame. He had been the first black student to graduate from Harvard, the first black man to occupy a professorship at a Southern university, the
Hmm.
first and so far only black man to have his law degree ratified and be approved to practice law by the Supreme Court of the state of South Carolina. And yes, also an activist,
Hmm.
but
So
could also pass for white.
he was fairly well known
Hmm.
as a black man making strides as a black man, right? Like a
Right.
very like I'm emphasizing black because when the family decides, mother and children,
Hmm.
to pass, to start a new life as people passing for white, uh,
Yeah.
she has to leave all of that behind, and there is fear of being
Oh
found out,
gosh. Yes.
and the fear runs down into, I mean, the fact that these children pledged to never have children
To never get married and then never have children. That
is
is,
bonkers, because they are so young when they make that
yeah,
promise to their mom.
yeah. And that conversation, so the mom, her name is Genevieve, and
Hmm. And the
that
dad's not a
whole
great person. Let's just put this out there. The dad's not the best.
oh, the dad is a terrible person. As a matter of fact, Genevieve's mom said he was worthless. The proof of that that lay in his abandonment of her daughter Genevieve and their five children after 35 years of marriage.
Hmm.
Um, so he was not a well loved or respected person in that family itself. But
Mm-mm.
on the outside, he probably looked like a great man because he did great things. But
Yeah, yeah.
personally,
You know how they
terrible
do.
husband, terrible father.
Hmm.
But that conversation that Genevieve and her mother are having about this, boy, when I tell you, my chest was just and my stomach were just knotted up. And I'm like, I like if that were me back then and my daughter's telling me this, I think my butt would just fall out. That is terrifying on every level. That
I
is the
just,
riskiest thing.
it's so risky. It's so risky. And like it's such a, because they are so young, especially her
Yes.
younger siblings are so young when they commit to this. And I mean, they, until they don't, which is quite late, they
Mm-hmm.
really do for the most part commit to this promise. I mean,
Yes, they
Belle
do.
basically commits to this promise, and it's crazy. It's just in my mind, it's so crazy to make decisions that big at that young of an age.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then also, you and I talked about this with you because what's so strange to me is Belle does get from the black side of her family, the black community, a lot of pushback for doing this. And where on the one hand, I understand how the community that you come from would be
Mhm.
upset
Mhm.
that you've left them behind, that
Mhm.
instead of making strides for black women, you are selling yourself as something else. But there's also this part of me that's like, this was the only way she could get there with any sort of certainty, I guess, without
Mhm.
having to like have to be like half as successful as she ended up being. She really could own the things that
Yeah.
she wanted to do by making this decision. And I don't think that the achievements that she made are necessarily, I mean, there's still amazing achievements that she made,
Sure.
regardless of whatever she was presenting herself as.
Right.
Um, and I feel like that kind of gets lost when her community is so mad at her, when her dad's so mad at her, because she still did great things. Like
Yes.
I feel like it's like, be mad at me for how I got there, but can you still appreciate the things that I managed to do by doing this? Because
Exactly.
I worked hard and I did do these things. Like, these are amazing things. And yes, they would have been even more amazing if she had accomplished them being herself, being
Mhm.
true to herself, but she still accomplished that.
Right.
And
Because
I
the
feel
odds of
like
her
this,
doing it as herself are would just slim to none.
yeah.
And her
And like,
mother. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Continue.
I was just gonna say, it was such a hard argument to listen to, because like I kind of got both sides, but I felt so bad for Belle because
Mhm.
you want somebody. It just felt like people could have been more proud of her
Yeah.
and not just negging her about things. Like, she still accomplished great things as Belle, a human.
Right.
But also, like, it's crazy and complicated and nuanced, and like, yeah.
Oh
So
yeah. Like very much so. The heartbreaking part when Genevieve and her mother are having that conversation, and this of course made me think about passing. It also made me think about the vanishing half, and the mother says, if you do this, you'll have to lie and hide for the rest of your life. Move to a different city, change your behavior, change the way you speak, the way you think. If I were to meet you in the street, I would have to pretend not to recognize you. I wouldn't even be able to look at you or speak to you, much less touch you or get near any of my grandchildren, because no one can ever find out your secret and no one can ever reveal it. Not the whites, not us, no one ever.
hmm
If you do this, you'll have to break completely with the past, break with everyone you love, your brothers, your uncles, the whole neighborhood. If you do this, none of us will be able to visit you anywhere. If you do this, we won't see each other again. God, that just like, that kind of gutted me a little bit because she is right. The risk is
she
too
is.
great.
It's a huge decision to
Yeah,
make, to
yeah,
turn your back and live a different life.
yeah,
And like, that's why I understand why her community and her family would be mad, but
yeah.
she also did so many great things.
She did.
you know so it's like, but I feel like this book does this a lot, where you're oscillating between these really high highs of the things that she achieves, and these like gut churning, not really
Hmm.
lows, but like moments where you're like, oh, is it all gonna tumble down? Is this house of cards gonna tumble down?
The fear never
And
left me.
imagining living your life like that always.
Yeah. As the reader, the fear never left me. I was always
hmm
waiting for someone, or here's what I was really waiting for. I was waiting for another black person to see her in her position of passing, and for the black person to be like, I know you're black, and I'm gonna
But
tell.
I feel like we covered this in passing too, where like there is also a fear of sort of ratting out the passing person,
Hmm.
because
But
you know what will come from doing that.
but there's different ways to rat out a person. Like they could have crossed with someone from their past or someone their father knew that knows them. Like they could have been just been ratted out to their own community. And that would have
Yeah.
gotten back to the father because they were also afraid of the father
Oh,
finding
the
out what they
dad,
were doing.
because he had no
He was
idea.
in various circles that it could have easily gotten back to him.
Yeah.
Um, which eventually it did, and true to his, you know, butthole self, he tried to leverage that to get what he wanted. What an awful man. And also,
The
can we
dad's a
just say a
terrible person.
hypocrite? A
Oh
hypocrite.
yeah.
Like he
Oh
was
yeah.
not acknowledging his like white passing light skin privilege either
No.
at all.
No.
Like, sir, you looked in a mirror? You think the doors open so easily for you because you didn't look almost white? Are you not
Yeah.
acknowledging that?
I mean, the colorism is real, and I feel like
Oh,
that's something we
so
still
real.
argue a lot today, which I find very interesting because it's not strictly a like an African American
Hmm.
America kind of
Oh, right.
discussion. This is ubiquitous to anybody,
Asians. Hmm.
yeah, who isn't just a white person. Like this is
Yep.
a very common thing. I mean, the amount of like lightning creams that get marketed to people, like I hear it all the time when you talk to like different I'll see like a lot of creators like from India and stuff that talk about this, or like Sri Lanka and
Hmm.
stuff, how like there's all of this just marketing towards women to just make themselves lighter and lighter and lighter because that's what's
Yes.
beautiful. And it's it's a real thing that exists and permeates into today. Like
Yep.
maybe you can't go to an office with like just a random affidavit of someone saying, "Yep, this is really this person and they
Right.
really are this," and get like a passport and all these other things and reinvent your
Exactly.
life. It's not that simple, but you can still be victims or be privileged by your
Hmm. That is
tone.
true. That is very true.
And it really does exist.
Yeah, it really does. It's plaguing. It has plagued so many communities of color, and it's really sad to feel so less than because you have darker skin to the point where you go through extreme measures to lighten it, which by the way is dangerous as hell.
I always
Like,
thought those things were like a crock of shit. Do they actually do something to your skin?
mhm.
Doesn't sound good.
It's not good. Now there are a lot of doctors coming out like, please don't do this. These are the things that can happen. Like, this is really not safe.
Yeah,
It's
it
it's pretty
sounds
scary actually what it can do. So
obviously
sad.
it's not a thing that I've ever had to use. Uh, I always thought they were kind of like scammy things. I thought they were like, like cellulite cream, like that kind of thing where you're like
Oh
selling
no.
it to women's humanity. Then, but they
It's
really do stuff.
it's really
That's
bleaching your
that's
skin.
actually like worse, I think, than being a scam. I wish
Yes.
they were a scam.
Yes. Yeah. So I don't know about you, but like I was kind of impressed with Belle because she is the one that came up with this grand master plan of like
Oh
who
yeah.
this
I mean,
family is going to be.
this woman was on a mission, let me tell you. She
Seriously.
had goals, she had things she wanted, and she was getting them. And I think that that's very admirable. Even if she had to bend rules to get there,
Yeah.
she was getting there. That's it. She was getting
Yeah.
there.
I mean, she did the research and she found this family they could attach this family name and
Mhm.
place they can attach themselves to, and like she just had the whole thing like laid out, and I
Oh
was
yeah, she's
like,
like, how will you
okay,
describe
Belle.
us? Well, we're Portuguese. Like,
Right. It's just it was kind of
but
incredible to me.
like you and I talked about this because I was shook when I looked her up,
Yeah.
and I don't I don't understand how nobody looked at this woman and thought
Mm-hmm.
maybe she's mixed in some way, because I just she looks like so many people that I've met and know.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess all the only thing I can come up with was the fact that I just white people didn't see black people.
Exactly.
And if they did, they were very like stereotyped, very dark, very something, because
Yes.
it blew my mind that they were like I
Yeah,
don't know. It was so weird. It just looked like any person that I know that is like biracial or mixed race or
same.
something. She looked like somebody that that's it. I don't think like I would be like, I don't know. It was just so weird. It was so weird to
Yeah.
me. And to realize that like the lives of people, especially the higher up they were in society, how
Mhm.
insulated they were to anybody who was different is just
Yes.
so mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Because we live in
If
a world where you see everybody. Like, you can't be like, I've never
for
seen
sure.
somebody who is Asian. You cannot say that to me.
Yep.
If you live in like a modern society with television and the internet, you cannot tell me that.
Right. But back then, if you
You
weren't
could.
exactly, if you weren't obviously a black person, they just, they may, have some question, but like not a question of are you passing for something else?
But I also guess
You
there's
know.
probably some amount of cognitive dissonance where it's like something isn't ringing as true in your mind, but you're like,
Yeah.
well, surely because I'm a raging racist, this person has to be white because they couldn't be here if they weren't, right?
Mhm.
So now you're like, they
Mhm.
have to be. So there has to be that piece of it.
That makes sense
But it's
too.
still
Yeah.
to the modern reader, it's so like it was just so
Unbelievable.
weird. I was like, no, life surely
Yeah.
didn't exist like this. It
Because I
did.
did what you said. I turned to the back of the book and I saw those photos and I was like, she looks like a mixed woman. There's like,
Hmm.
but it's like, wow, they don't see it. They don't see it.
They don't.
It was crazy.
So I have a question for you. Do you
Hmm.
think that JP Morgan was aware? Like at some point, do you think he was aware?
The son, yes.
No, the
Oh, the
father.
the father. I think he had an inkling. I
Because I have a feeling that at some point after she'd already like proven herself to him, he must have figured it out. And he
I
must
don't
not have cared because she continued to serve a purpose.
I don't know if he figured it out. I do think he had a strong inkling, but I think his love for her just weighed more than what he thought she may actually be.
Yeah.
That's what I think. I just think he really loved her. Period. That's it. And he didn't
I
care
mean,
if
she
she
was
was
very
a black
good.
woman.
She was very good at her job. And
Very, very good.
I feel like that if he knew that outweighed anything else that he could have possibly found fault with because
Mhm.
she did what he needed above and beyond what he was requesting. You know, she
She was
traveled the
incredible.
world and secured some amazing manuscripts and things for his
Yeah.
library, which if you've never been, Naomi, you really need to go. It's beautiful. I love
I
JP
would
Morgan
love
Library.
to I would love to check it out. I really would.
It is stunning.
I believe it.
And I mean, I understand that scene when she walks into the library and she sees the big room that's like a couple levels
Mhm.
with all of the like it is that room is like awe inspiring. It is.
Mm.
I would who the amount of murder I would commit to have that in my life.
Right.
You have no idea.
Right. I think, she her job had so many roles attached to it. Um I hope people aren't thinking that she was just in there like just shelving books like you do it like at a public library. Like I hope no one's thinking that. Like she was actually a really masterful negotiator.
Yeah, I
Like
mean,
it was so much more than putting books on the shelf. She was a master negotiator. She really knew how and where to make connections to find the
mhm.
works that Morgan was looking for. Like she was really skilled in a lot of
She
areas,
goes
and that led to a very adventurous career.
when she went to that one country house in the UK to get those manuscripts and
Mhm.
negotiated the deal prior to
Yes.
auction. That whole scene, that
Amazing.
whole section is just amazing.
It
And
really
that was
was.
one of the scenes I really thought she was going to get called out
Mhm.
for being for passing as white
Right.
because I did not trust like I trust Americans to talk themselves out of calling her out
Yes.
because of like what I said, like, oh, she can't be here if she's not, so therefore she isn't. So it's like, you know what I mean?
Yep.
I don't trust British aristocracy to not just be like, who the hell are you? What are
Yeah.
you doing in here?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
those scenes were really nerve-wracking. But I feel like when she went through that, I was less afraid for her in Europe because it was almost like if she could get through that, she's
Yeah.
going to be okay.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure. I I'm so impressed with what she was able to do. And what a life to live though. Going to all
Even
these
to be
different
like a
countries and looking for all these wonderful works and making all these deals. It's exciting to me.
It is exciting to think about the time period. Like, even if
Yeah.
she actually was like a white woman, this would
Mhm.
still be remarkable because
Yeah.
who gets to do this? This is like a once in a lifetime
Once
job
in a
posting that
lifetime.
she secures
Yeah.
through good connections. She knew how to, you said this, to make connections, maintain connections,
Mhm.
market herself well. She worked really well. She was like a hound dog. She
Oh
would
yes.
not let things lie. I mean, she would go in there and be like, these people are cheating you. Like, where are all your receipts? And like, she would just hound people for things.
Yeah.
And she was like a captain on a ship getting that whole catalog together.
Yeah. And also always stood up for herself in the work capacity with
Hmm.
the father and the son. And
Hmm.
I think that commanded a level of respect towards her as well.
Hmm.
Uh, and she always made her position very clear if they either one of them wanted something, but she knew it wasn't the right time or a good deal, and she stood firm in her
Hmm.
position on that. And that's not easy for a lot of people to do.
Hmm.
I just think she was an incredible businesswoman.
Yeah. At a time when businesswoman was a very infrequently used phrase.
For
she
sure.
she was amazing. Do you want to talk a little bit about her love affair? Like, I feel like I didn't expect her to be so
Oh,
spicy.
which one?
I know. I was expecting her to be like, I mean, she had enough going on, and suddenly you
Yeah.
got these spicy love affairs.
Yeah, I mean, I just loved it. Yeah. I loved how free she was in that,
Hmm.
you know? But I was worried. I was worried like is the need or the desire to get married and have a child or children going to be so heavy that she just damns her initial promise to never do so. So that was always a thought in the back of my mind too. But yeah,
Yeah,
so who we
I
talking
kind of
about first, Junius or who?
whoever you want to, because I don't remember anybody's names, and I don't have the book to refer to, so you have to
So I
remind me.
think
There was the artist guy.
I think that was Junius Morgan, right? The nephew or whatever. The
I don't think she had an affair with the nephew.
No,
They
but
were
she
just
loved
friends.
him. She loved him.
Yes, but no, but she wasn't boinking him around Europe.
I know, but that was her first. She called him her first, love. We have to mention
Yes, and
Junius.
they had a very loving relationship
She's like,
that
now get
lasted
to
for.
the boinking. All right.
I want to talk about all the smexy times this lady had
Who
with
is
somebody.
the?
Let me just tell you, the fact that she had an entire affair with some woman's husband, and that woman was like, "Cool." That,
Yeah,
I mean, there are
child
things
is
I'm
that.
never gonna understand. I'm never gonna understand certain ways that people think. The amount, and there's a lot of people that like marriage is really like a partnership, especially if you go back in time. It's a partnership. You do what you need to do, and
Yeah,
then whatever you need to do after that, I don't care. Don't bring me syphilis. We're good. Like, I
yeah,
don't get
exactly. Well, you know, some people live such a very nice life that
it. Hmm.
that is what they want most, to live a nice life. They don't really care what their spouses out
Yeah,
there doing. Just continue keeping up this nice life because this is what I'm in it for.
but I do know that like there's lots of people that are in that kind of
Mhm.
place that you and I will ever be in.
Mhm.
And you see like the other woman, And I always feel bad for when the other woman thinks that they're going to get the husband. And you're not getting, like, he's not, no, she is keeping him.
She's keeping him. And if you do get him,
As long
you
as
say
everybody
what?
knows their role.
Yeah,
No, you don't, because there will be a new you. And
exactly.
you got to know your role.
Know your
And
role.
I think that
Know your
Belle
role.
knew her role. She was fully aware of
Hmm.
everything, and they were all fully aware of everything. And it was like the wife was just so happy to have somebody taking her husband off her hands.
Yeah, because they would go on these trips together and be
She
away
would
for
organize all of his
weeks long.
correspondence.
Oh yeah. Oh yes. Oh yeah. And then now I'm getting confused. Is this the man that she got pregnant by, or was that the other guy?
No, I think she got pregnant by him, and then there was a guy after him.
Right. Okay. Because then he kind of like disappeared for a while, and she had to handle that
Hmm.
on her own. So, did you think she was going to have that baby?
No,
I wasn't. I wasn't sure because I wasn't. I wasn't certain of if she was willing to take the risk of trying to get rid of it or not. That's what I was uncertain about.
I think I got at that point in the book. I was so convinced that this woman wasn't going to do anything that would
Mm-hmm.
jeopardize her job. Like,
Yeah.
sure, she'll have an affair, that's fine, but she wasn't
Mm-hmm.
going to do anything that would actually truly jeopardize her job.
You know what else I really, really loved about Belle Greene was her absolute dedication and commitment to her family. You know, they all live together,
Hmm.
right? And
Hmm.
she took a great portion of her salary to put into the family coffers, you know? So and what put her brother through school? Like she did a lot. She did a
She
lot for
took
the
care of
family.
she really she stepped in like the husband should have been and
Yeah.
took care of that family. She became the
Yeah.
man of the house, and she, I mean, even when her sister eventually does marry somebody and have a
Mhm.
baby and is
Mhm.
just absolutely in the throes of postpartum,
Yeah.
um she steps up and takes care of that child
Forever. Yeah. That I thought that was
until.
really I thought it was really beautiful. Yeah, and it was beautiful, and then it became heartbreaking. But when they were just talking about that connection that Belle had with her nephew, like from birth,
Mhm.
I was like, "Oh, this cracks me open a little bit. It's so sweet,"
But you
and
knew
but
that it
also
was there's
sad
a
for the
demise
sister.
because they tell you right
Yeah.
from the beginning. So like the
Yep.
first chapter is telling you about this nephew uh
Mhm.
dying, um unaliving himself. And
Yeah.
to me it's just so there's things that are just so hard to understand sometimes from a modern perspective,
Yeah.
and finding out that your mom was a black woman and that you are half black would not make me want to kill myself.
But it was more than that. It
I
wasn't
know it
just
goes it
that.
goes it
Yeah.
goes deeper than all of that, but like
Mhm.
it's just such a, it's just so, I
Yeah.
don't know, it's like there's certain things that really hit you in the gut about how horrible things have been.
Mhm.
And I know how horrible things are now, but
Right.
how horrible things have been in the past. And there's just certain, like, you can tell me they were horrible, but then there's other ways that you can show me. And like
Right.
stories like that really, that's a gut punch to realize that this is something that could be that terrible to your life. Like this whole
Yeah.
idea of the one drop rule, like it's sort of esoteric when you talk about it like that, but when you humanize it into
Mhm.
a person finding that out, and how knowing that has affected his life,
Yep.
how that secret that he doesn't even know is a secret spreads and changes his life.
Well,
it's
so
it's
Bobby had
just
a lot of blows.
it fits differently, it hits differently, I mean, than just hearing the phrase one drop rule.
It it for Bobby in particular, I think he had too many hard blows at once. So he was going to marry this woman. The family did some digging around, and when he confronts Belle about it, he says, according to what Mr. Taylor said when I asked him for his daughter's hand in marriage this evening, my grandfather's last name wasn't Green, but Greener. Um, and he goes on about being black, and he is
Hmm.
asking her to tell him the truth.
Mhm.
And this is the first blow, right? He thinks he's going to marry this woman, but it comes to find out that that's not going to happen because her dad has found out this terrible secret about who he really is. And you're
Mhm.
faced with, okay, my aunt, whom I love dearly, has been lying to me all this time. Now I don't get the girl, and
Mhm.
now this secret is probably going to come out, and my comrades aren't gonna, want to do like your whole world is going to collapse.
Yeah.
That is a lot for one person to take in, basically in one fell swoop.
Yeah. It's a
I mean,
lot.
like a mental crack has to happen.
Yeah. I get it in historical context, but
Yeah.
as me reading it, it's these are the things that really make those phrases you hear historically
Hmm.
really have humanity to them and have you understand the weight of some of the decisions we've made historically.
Yeah. Yeah. It was sad. It was sad because Bobby and Belle were so close, and
Mhm.
even that part where after they've had this whole conversation, this slash argument about who they really are,
Mhm.
and it says they're standing side by side in the mirror, and it says, Bobby's face. Bobby's face a good foot higher than Belle's, but it wasn't his own face that he stared at with a kind of appalled fascination now. He was examining hers, and he saw her now as he had never seen her before. He saw the golden tint of her skin, the limpid pupils of her gray green eyes, her overly prominent nose, the fullness of her lips. And this light beneath Bobby's gaze, the rapt and wild look in his eyes, she felt herself transforming, turning into what he was seeing in her dressing gown without makeup, without the rice powder that lightened her skin, without the pomade that smoothed her hair. She was no longer simply the exotic beauty that he had always admired, but also, more importantly, she was Morgan's nigger whore, as those bastards had dubbed her. That part was just like, just, oh, I just, I
It's
wanted to
so
cry in that part.
heartbreaking.
It really was. I
It's
wanted to cry.
so heartbreaking. I mean, uh, there
It
is
was
no other
rough.
way to
Yeah, it
say
was
it. Like,
rough.
it's just breaks your heart because it shouldn't.
Yeah,
Like none of this should mean anything, and the fact that it does just is it's heartbreaking. It's upsetting. It's disgusting. It's a whole wash of emotions.
yeah. And for Bobby, who feels so betrayed and hurt, when all Belle wanted to do was protect him and to give him a chance to be able to have a great life, and now all that's rocked, and then he takes his own life.
I mean, it's
So
hard
sad.
because I think Belle made decisions that clearly not everybody in the community agreed with,
Mm-hmm.
but she made them for the betterment of her family
Mm-hmm.
overall. And sometimes we have to make those really hard decisions. And some of it
Yep.
was perhaps a little selfish because she also wanted certain things, right?
They all did.
She wanted to achieve certain things, but I think there's nothing wrong with being a little bit selfish. She was a little selfish. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Um, but all of that kind of ends up not really mattering. The
Mm-hmm.
motivation for it, it is the betrayal that outshines everything else, and
Yep.
it just makes it so much more heartbreaking
So
when
does.
you circle back to that beginning scene and you get the full context of everything that occurred.
Yeah.
um, After reading about this woman's really glorious life, um, and just how that there's that like just sad punctuation at the end of all of that.
Mm-hmm. And in the end, like, obviously, we found out anyway.
Hmm.
We found out anyway. And I still just respect the gutsiness that she had to even, well, for all of them, the entire family, and really
She's got
especially their mother
moxie.
Genevieve. Yeah, because the mother Genevieve really just kind of put her own personal life on hold and just kind of dug into ensuring that everybody's going to be okay. We all stay on plan. We all stay on target.
Nobody's having babies.
Right. Everyone be quiet. This is the secret. And just kind of, made Belle's close. She just really contributed. Please hold. I hope the other one is
All
still
right. Do you
good.
want to
All
like
right.
kind of wrap it up in case we have some more technical issues, and
Yeah,
then
let's wrap it up.
we can get
Yeah.
going? So, no, I really enjoyed it. My only commentary on the book, the thing that, and this is not really Belle Greene, the book itself, it's sort of historical fictionalizations like this. How much of this is real in terms of the minutia? It's the same question I have when I read like Wolf Hall. Like
Mm-hmm.
like wait,
Yeah.
what conversations are exactly like this? What conversations does the author add nuance and other things to make it, I don't know, more narrative? I always wonder where fact
Mm-hmm.
and more of the fictionalization of these things, where they blur together and where they meet. It's not like I don't believe that these things happen to Belle. I just, when we get down to these nitty gritty
Yeah.
conversations, like these really private, personal moment conversations, how many of these, or how much of that is accurate to, and how much is speculation by the author? And that's always like my one issue with books like this. It's because I want, I want,
Yeah. I mean, the author talks about it a little bit in the appendices about um sticking to the facts. Um so I don't know. And she lists all the stuff in here, so I
I mean,
think she
as
she
a
has a lot
woman
of
whose
sources.
job was to
So, but
catalog and
hmm
maintain good sources, I imagine that there are pretty good
yeah,
sources of information on a lot of things, especially once you get into the JP Morgan era of her life. Um, but yeah, there's always, with any book like this, I always have this moment where I have to sit up and in the middle of while I'm reading it and go, wait, take a
right,
second.
right. The only thing with Belle Greene is she had so many correspondence between back and
Hmm.
forth with a lot of people, and so while she may have burned a lot of her letters, those other people
Yeah,
didn't. So there's some stuff there, but just a really just a fascinating story. Like, this isn't a book where like you're like blown away by the
mm-mm.
prose. Okay? You're blown away by the story of Belle
She
Greene.
lived a
That's it. You
remarkable
know what I mean?
life.
Like, this is not absolutely absolutely fantastic. So now I'm curious of how the
Same,
personal librarian reads. I wonder how I'm gonna have to. I may just listen to that one. I
same.
just need to know, because now I want to compare the two.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, if you haven't picked up Belle Greene, highly
Please
recommend it.
do. It's very good. It's a
Highly
very good
recommend
book.
it.
It's a very
Very much
remarkable
so.
life. And maybe I can trick Naomi into
Hmm.
coming to New York so that I can go
Oh, you don't have to trick
to
me. I
the
definitely
Morgan
want to do that.
Library. It's really lovely. And yeah.
I would love
So
to.
anyway,
Absolutely.
do you have a book?
Absolutely.
Yes. Do you
Recommendation
have one?
time.
Oh, this is going to be a big
Yes, I
recommendation if she does that
do.
beforehand.
I talked about it when I was in the midst of reading it, and that
Now
is
it's
Paradise
time
Rot
to.
by Jenny. I need you to read this. Oh, I'm sorry. This is another. I know you just told me in the other episode. Stop telling you to read Lit Fic so you can focus on some of your fantasy. But I'm sorry, this is short.
Do you
Okay.
see? Do you see
This is
why I don't get
Paradise
to any
Rot.
of the other things? Because she's like, you gotta read this, and
I
then when I
said
don't read it,
sorry.
she's like,
This is how
how come you haven't read it yet? How come you haven't read it yet? We need you to read it yet. Why haven't you read it yet?
I've only done it with our share of night because I'm so excited. Anyway, this is Paradise Rock by Jenny Havel, and this is translated from the Norwegian by Marjam Idris. Um, okay, this is a very, very short novel. It's a novella. It's only 148 pages. It took me a long time to read this because she just kept stumping me with this beautiful writing that I would just read these things over and over again because I was just floored. by how beautiful it was written or how gross the scene was. So let me just read the inside flap for a bit. Joe was in a strange new country for university and having a more peculiar time than most. In a house with no walls, shared with a woman who has no boundaries, she finds her strange home coming to life in unimaginable ways. Joe's sensitivity and all her senses become increasingly heightened and fraught as the lines between bodies and plants dreaming away from this blur and mesh. It's an incredible story. Joe is finishing up her undergrad degree, and she gets to this town and she's in a hostel while she's looking for a permanent place to live, and she finally gets accepted to roommate with this young lady in this once industrial kind of a space that has turned into like a loft style apartment. And they seem to get on very well. And as we go more into the story, they kind of form a great attachment to one another. Joe is definitely exploring her sexuality with men and women. Joe, the roommate is a little older, has more experience overall, but Joe is kind of coming into her own, trying to figure out what she likes, what she wants, how she feels about this roommate, what's going on with them. So there's a lot of sexual curiosity in this book. But then it makes a lot of mention throughout the book about things growing in this living space, fungus and things like that, plants. So it's like as Joe herself is like coming alive into her own, like the loft they share is also like coming alive. But there are also some very uncomfortable things going on, like with this roommate. I'm taking it as something has obviously happened to her that was very traumatic, because she clings to Joe in a way that really isn't quote unquote normal. It feels a little bit too heavy. There's also lots of mentions about urine and peeing in the story. Like for instance, this roommate, she like climbs into bed with Joe in the middle of the night on several occasions and just pees. And to me, that kind of signals that she's gone through something very traumatic and has not yet been able to deal with it. And so you find Joe in this room are becoming like so entwined and so entangled with one another, and it's so heavy, and Joe needs to find a way to unravel and untangle herself from this roommate, from this situation, and from this loft, and kind of get out and get on her own. And it's her whole journey into that. But it's just so beautiful. Let me read something. It says, but my dreams are full of apples, and in the dark, my body slowly transforms into fruit. Tonsils shrink into seeds, and lungs to core. I dream of white flowers blossoming under my nails as if under ice. Then my nails break, opening up like clams, and in the finger flesh, there are little sticky fruit pearls. Everything about this little book, I just love so much. I'm probably going to read it again because it was that great to me, but I highly recommend it. And this is one of my books for our 12 Women, 12 Countries challenge. So that's Paradise Rot by Jenny Hobble, translated from the Norwegian by Marjam Idris. It's fantastic.
Well, mine has no piss or shit in it, so just I'm just gonna quickly talk about briefly A Delicious Life by Nell Stevens. This was my Patreon pick for this past month, and I thought this was really interesting. I knew nothing. What's funny is, so like the publisher reached out and asked me if I wanted this, and I was like, yes. So I have an ARC on my shelves. Did I read it? No, that's nothing new. We know that. The When Barnes& Noble did their 50% off sale, I was like, oh, this sounds like a me book. So I got it because I forgot that I had the ARC. So now I have both. And I think like at some point I knew what this was about. And then I think it got twisted with some other books in my head. And I was expecting this to be a lot more sad, like sad girl. Like more like a Lily King or something like that. And it's not that. So this is our narrator is a ghost living in Mallorca in this like old cloisters kind of thing for where monks used to live, like monastery, like with monks and stuff. It is the 1800s, And Chopin and George Sand, who's a French writer, her children and he come there. And Chopin is like very sick with tuberculosis. Um, the town, like the townsfolk in Majorca, like are terrified of them because they think he's bringing sickness to the town. They don't speak any English, and our narrator is this ghost that haunts this area. And she died back in like the 1400s, I think, or 1600s, like a long time ago. She died.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you go back and forth between her watching these people living in this thing, uh, and her remembering all the people she's watched, the things that she has done to the people she's watched, because she does sort of mess with the humans, and flashes back to her own life. So she has her own sort of sad story arc. She There's like flirting with lesbianism in here a little bit, like because I guess George Sand also had some
Mm-hmm.
relationships with women. Our ghost character had a love with
Okay.
uh loved a woman. I don't think they did anything, but like had a crush on a woman. She's had a crush on like a couple humans that she's seen while she was dead. Um, and it's just a really interesting look at two historical figures that I don't really know a lot, especially George Sand. Obviously, I know who Chopin is, but like I don't know a lot about George Sand as a writer, as a like historical figure and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So it was, I guess I was surprised at the historical fiction nature of this, and I did enjoy it. I think the writing is really
Mm.
good. I liked the way it was constructed with this ghost telling us this story, and I just thought it was like a lovely read. It's not earth shattering in any way. Like I'm not going to react like Naomi does to Paradise Rock, but I think that this is like it's literally just a lovely read, and I
Yeah.
I think it would be like just like a nice weekend read, a nice like a little bit of light literary for you. And I know it's nominated, long listed for a Dylan Thomas Prize this year, but yeah, this was good.
Nice.
The
And
cover
the
is
cover's
stunning, which
stunning
is why I
too.
keep ending up with it. Yeah.
So
So anyway,
beautiful. Well, I'm glad you
I did
liked it.
like it. I would like to see
Yeah.
more. I think this is her first novel, like fiction. This is her debut fiction novel, and she's
Yeah.
got a couple like memoirs. One's called Bleaker House, and the other one is called The Victorian and the Romantic. So, I mean, she's definitely somebody that has a great knowledge of like Victoriana and Victorian historical figures. And
Right.
I don't think if I knew anything about George Sand, I it was very limited. So now I want to try to figure out like what is a writing of hers that I should read. She sounds
Mm.
very interesting. Like
Yeah.
oh, villagers also think they're very strange because she wears pants. Um, and her daughter gets sort of attacked by some of the village kids because her daughter is wearing pants, and we all know that a woman in pants is like having
we
sex with the devil. Like it is the same level. Like
It all
pants,
comes back to pants. It all
pants.
comes back to
Never a
pants.
woman can't wear pants. So
Pants.
yeah, it's really interesting. And she
I
has
love
this
it.
ability, the ghost, to like she talks about it like she's flipping through the pages of someone's journal. Like she can flip through the pages and see
Hmm.
forward in time. And I don't know, because I don't know enough about like the actual life of Chopin, and I don't know anything really about the life of George Sand to know like how their lives end, but there
Right.
is some flipping through to the future for these characters. And I wonder if it's the real future or what that is. So there's some
Hmm.
just like it, sometimes I like a book that proves to me that I don't know something so that it can make me learn something. So I thought,
Absolutely. Yes. Well, that
yeah,
was a good
yeah.
recommendation. And although, you told me not to recommend you read any more literature for a while, but I'm just saying, at some point, Paradise Rot should be on the list.
I
I
can
think
get it
you would
on my
appreciate it a
Kindle.
great
It's
deal.
available at the library, but it's not going on the list this month.
Yes.
So you have to wait.
That's fine. I said at some point, and that means at some point, maybe in this year. Maybe in this year.
You need to learn to say no. No is a full sentence.
You can say no whenever you want. And then I will just buy the book and send it to you so that you have it for later.
Get yourself a friend who's going to force you to read books.
Okay, well, that's going to do it for us. Thanks for tuning in. Until next
Bye.
time, bye.